don't even know what the pressure is for anymore. It used to be I want to make art that I think is cool, and now I make art that I think is pretty cool, and I know I'm getting better inevitably. So it's like, why 3/4 of the time do I feel like I have to be down on myself and carrying this weight and this pressure? I want to relax a little bit, I guess. I want to.
Yeah, seems like, you went through a lot of schooling where you had a lot of people saying things that weren't really pleasant to hear. You probably learned from it, but at the same time, it did kind of, did some scars, so to speak.
Yeah.
Hi everyone, and thank you so much for tuning in to our next episode of Be Thyself. We're here for you. The purpose and the goal of this podcast is to create a community and also to help as many people as possible. We want to hear you. We want to actually have your comments. We want to actually kind of know what's going on with you and what you'd like to see in this podcast. If you have any subject or any matter that you'd like to actually see being discussed on this podcast, please leave us a comment. We will be reading it and we'll take it in consideration and we will have a podcast around it. Thank you so much. Welcome back to a new episode of Be Thyself. Thank you so much for joining in. Today we have a special host because it's the first time we're having, Jamie as an host. Today is kind of a special day because we have Jamie on board. So welcome to the podcast, Jamie.
Thank you very much. I'm excited to be here. You've probably seen me before, but now I've got my own chair. So things are different. Things are crazy now.
And I love that chair. That's one of my favorite ones. And then we have Christelle all the way in Barcelona over there. So I want to say hi. Hi, Christelle.
Hello. Thank you for having me again.
It's such a pleasure. So today we actually have a guest, and our guest is Dylan. So I'm going to actually kind of let Dylan kind of explain himself and kind of tell his story. And then today is pretty much, kind of his day. So today we're going to talk about, your challenges. And Dylan is an artist. And actually, since we're in Los Angeles, we have a lot of artists here. And it's a very challenging life. So I wanted to kind of have him on board and kind of talk about his challenges. And, today we're going to be talking about maybe like some of the challenges going through. You might be recognizing yourself in those challenges. And then perhaps you're going to get some, maybe some inspiration and maybe some stuff that you can do to actually help yourself, just as we're going to help Dylan. So Dylan's going to actually, talk to you now, and go ahead, Dylan.
Thank you. I think it all started when I was born. So my name is Dylan. I have lived in LA all of my life. I have always, for as long as I can remember, literally loved reading and writing stories in general, I guess, like movies a lot. I had a big movie phase. Actually, my whole life has been a big movie phase. And then in elementary school, I think it was kind of weird because I did a program where you can do 2 years of kindergarten, I think, because I was in like a weird age bracket. And I think that probably played a part in that. Then I got put in what I think is kind of infamous amongst my generation, at least in like LA area, is the
gifted
something called
program.
Yep.
The gifted
and talented program.
Mm-hmm.
Which when you're in 5th grade and someone tells you, especially a teacher, like, we're putting you in the gifted and talented program, I think I got a little excited. I was like, I might be Albert Einstein. That might.
It's crazy
also
too, because it implies that all the kids that aren't in it are just
I know.
dumb.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't know I was better than everyone.
Yeah,
oh,
exactly.
Okay, cool. Yeah, exactly. So it already, in retrospect, a little bit of a weird dynamic to set up, I feel. So then I went to a much bigger middle school and like had actual like A, B, C grades for the first time in my life. And was in all these gifted and talented classes, which are like, I guess in theory, accelerated. And I pretty quickly got myself removed from the gifted and talented program, which I didn't know was possible. But because, understandably, I was failing a lot of assignments, especially, weirdly, I think especially baffling to my parents at the time, like English assignments. Like there was literally one that seared into my brain where we had to write a book, which I had been doing for fun at home for the past few years. But then like, I just remember distinctly feeling like I could not make myself feel like an ounce of passion for it for that assignment. And so then I think it was most of middle school and high school was that idea of a situation recurring of knowing that in myself, at least knowing that there wasn't a passion problem in general, and that there were things that I wanted to do that even aligned with what the education system was trying to push me to want to do. And there was just, has always felt like there's a disconnect between that passion and applying it in ways that I can't directly attach to like something that I personally am passionate about getting done in that moment, which also, and for, I guess it's mainly, I can't apply that passion to like getting a good grade. Is never something I've been able to feel strongly about wanting in outside of the abstract of being like, then my parents won't be mad. So
it's hard to work your passion in the system.
Yeah,
it's like,
yeah.
It's what the man wants you to do.
Exactly.
It's not what Dylan wants to do.
I'm a rebel. I would never do what they tell me to do. Exactly.
No, but
the structure was kind of a bit of what kind of keep you from being in the flow and kind of, you already had kind of, the passion for it. And then, basically having that structure and then have the people over you, asking you to kind of do all those things were like a little bit too much. So it wasn't not really what you felt like was what you wanted to do.
Yeah, I think so. And then when I got really lucky and I got to go to film school in Syracuse, which was an incredible experience. And I really, especially going into junior and senior year of high school, didn't think I was going to get the opportunity to have one of those experiences because of my grades. But Syracuse was doing a really cool thing at the time where they were looking really heavily at portfolio work and weighing that against the grade point average. So I guess they liked a short film I'd made and they gave me a chance to go. And that was in many ways an amazing experience. And I got to grow into myself, I think, artistically a lot and learn to respect that part of myself a lot more for the first time. But also, I was surprised to find that I still didn't feel like it was solving at all the problem of like, they could tell me to do literally the thing I want to do. Like, you need to make a film of whatever you want and you can write it also in this amount of time. And then I would still find myself working on my own film that is not for the assignment when I was supposed to be working on the one that I had been assigned, and not even being able to explain to myself why that was happening. And then, so I think I was hitting a little bit of a like, if not a breaking point, like a confusion point. And then COVID happened. I got to go home I took a gap year instead of doing online classes, which I think for a lot of people was really hard, but for me was kind of amazing because I got to just hang out with my family and really not take that for granted. And like, I worked on a lot of music, which was something that I had just recently been thinking maybe I wanted to get into. And my sister had been very much driving passionately towards a career in music for my entire life. So I'd been exposed to it. And then she was able to kind of work with me on like songs and help me kind of feel like I could get more into it than I had been in the past, where I was just like playing for fun in the occasional like band or something. Actually, Jamie and I were in a band in like
Dylan and I go way
school,
back.
Middle school. Yeah.
Fifth, sixth grade, we were in a band together, and we were terrible. But
we almost got famous. I think we were close.
This close.
Like the next Weezer, people called us.
Yeah, that's true. I feel like that, like as someone that followed the exact same route as you, I also went to film school. Like for me, hearing what you're saying, I had similar experiences of like, it's one thing to feel the passion outside of the structure, but then as soon as there's people telling you to do it, you're like, ooh.
Yeah,
exactly. And I feel like for me, a lot of that was like expectations. Like as soon as there's people above you waiting to see your thing, you can fail. Whereas if you're just doing it for yourself, there's no expectation, there's no success, it's just doing it for yourself. But now there's eyes on it and there's people waiting to give you a grade on this art that you're making, and it kind of changes, your impression of the art that you're making, because suddenly it's not just for you, it's other people are going to weigh in on this. And I think, at least in my experience, that definitely drove me a little bit away from wanting to do it, because it's like, well, this is my thing. I don't like, if I do this and they think it's bad, what then? And so for me, at least, there's a little bit of like a subconscious, like, there's a voice kind of holding you back, because trying within that system means you could fail, and you don't want to fail.
I think so much of even the rest of my experience in film school, and then since graduating last summer, has just been, in a weird way, now that I feel like I've been taught and know knowledgeably how to approach my art, now it's almost rediscovering making it for me, which I think takes a level of confidence that, to your point, is, I think it long-term probably helps to have some criticism, but yeah, being in an environment where it's constantly being critiqued suddenly by people who know how to critique it as if you're a professional is like amazingly helpful. And also I think did send me spinning a little bit for that exact reason of like,
Yeah, I just feel like it's also like, the way you took it maybe at the time, because I think, when you come from like, let's say a non-judgment, places, maybe the school that you were before, they weren't judging, your art. They were like, just like, okay, that's great, and then, you came into an environment where it was more like, I would say, professional environment, I would say, where they would actually have like more constructive, criticizing. And a lot of time, when you come from like a place where you didn't get so much of those, it can kind of throw you out. You might feel like a bit uncomfortable and feel like, am I good enough? Am I, in the right, job here? Is it, the things that, I'm supposed to be doing? You start to have doubts, maybe. I don't know if that's something that kind of came up. I'm just asking because I think it's not, unusual where you actually have, a desire to do something, and then you have people talking over you saying, hey, you know what? It's not that great. You're not doing the way, the way it's supposed to be done. And how did it affect you?
I think it affected me in a few. I think a big part of it was it did drive me to music, which I think was one of the big positive effects, is at least I just had a feeling that I had to diversify the things that I felt like I wanted to be good at, so that I guess I had a better chance of at any given time, if I feel like I'm not doing well in one, that I could then kind of switch gears to the other. I also think it was an important lesson for me, because what I started to realize, especially during those actual critiques, was that a lot of times there was a weird thing that started happening where my writing would be almost not critiqued at all, but not in the best way, because it would be more like, I think I was writing in such a flowery way maybe, or something, that it would almost disguise the things that could be critiqued. And then at the same time, every other aspect of the process would almost get even ripped apart sometimes, and always for the right reason. But then it's like, I think I had never even gone through having to separate for myself the process even of, if I can write, does that mean that I'm also a good cameraman, or like it? And I think in general, it drove me to a point of realizing that when I'm creating my best stuff is maybe obviously when I am just fully doing the things that, whether it's true or not, I feel like for me, like, oh, this is the part that I'm really good at. And I think I've gotten a lot better in recent years at entering that mode, and just like, if I'm trying to write a scene in a script, just being like, all right, for an hour, I am a great writer, and that's all that I have to think about. And then I just go, and then I can critique it for myself and have people read it later. And I think maybe my biggest challenge lately just feels like that. I want to feel like that more of the time, because it feels like if it's not that, then it ranges from general frustration at my situation to like full on just like an apathy or like disgust with me or with my work or with the world. And that is just, I feel that bleed into my social life and my family life also. And I don't like that some of the time my ambition or whatever, I feel like tends to make me be a version of myself that is not who I want to be.
Yeah. I feel like, when you actually get those, I want to ask you the way you felt, but also how did it actually can affect you now in terms of like, those criticism, the way you felt, and then how it actually bleeds in, because I feel like, it did affect you, and I think even though constructive criticism is very important because you can learn from it, you can actually kind of learn how to do things better. At the same time, it's how you take it that really matter. Because if you take it very personally, it can really hurt.
Yeah.
And I kind of sense that might be been the case maybe at some point.
Yeah, I think there was especially a moment where one of the most amazing experiences of my life, I got to spend a semester in Prague at the film school FAMU to like we just all got to try and direct and write our own short films. I made like a body horror short where like someone was basically for plot reasons had to cut off pieces of their body, and I thought it was very cool. And it was shot in Prague. It was on 35 millimeter film, and it was the biggest production I had done to that point. And it got, especially by the teachers at that school, really kind of shredded a little bit, and by a lot of the other students around me also at the time. And they even tried to cancel it like while I was making it. The professors, sorry, because they said that it was like unachievable or wasn't going to read to the audience. And the point being, like, some of that definitely was true. Some of it was definitely valid concern, both from the teachers and the students. And I think for a while, especially after the finished product came out, that was very disheartening to me because I felt like I had committed so much of myself to being like, I'm just going to make the thing that I think will be cool. And then I think for a long time, it made it hard for me to not want to play it safe in that way. And then I think, honestly, just a few months ago, I watched it again and I realized I think it's really cool. So my original intention was like, I did what I wanted to do. And then the rest of the criticism, I guess to your point, I think rather than taking it personally, I need to take that as, if I want to, I can apply that to my next project. But it is, I think I spent a long time thinking of, with all my projects, like marks against it being marks against my ability to create art versus this person took it this way. That doesn't necessarily have to be true for me who made it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's more about a perception things more than anything else. Mm-hmm. But it is true. Sometimes you can take things very personally, and that's really kind of, what creates also sometimes beliefs about yourself and about the kind of work you can do or you produce, about, even your identity. It actually really kind of, can affect that. And so today we're going to be talking about that. We're going to actually kind of work on that because I think, as I said before, constructive criticism, I think it's important because you can learn from that. But the way you take it makes the difference. Mm-hmm. And so today I definitely want to work a bit on that, where you can actually kind of talk about the things how you felt about it, and what kind of belief you would have to actually kind of move forward and feel strong and basically be in the flow. Because you said something that I really liked. When you actually kind of basically gave yourself to it and really kind of did the work and really kind of in the flow, you felt great. Mm-hmm. And I think that's really kind of what an artist, and I think everyone should kind of aim for, is to be in the flow where you can really kind of do what you love to do. And of course, along the way, you're going to have challenges, you're going to have people, actually kind of saying things. And I think it's important to listen and to really kind of take it in, but not being personal about it. It's nothing about you. It's about maybe, okay, that's their perception. They have an opinion. It doesn't make it, right or wrong. It's just, an opinion. So I think it's important to kind of, see that from that angle, because then when you actually see that from that angle, you don't feel like, it's being, a judgment upon you. It's more like just an opinion. And then you can learn more, and then you can be more at ease, and then stay in the flow. So I think maybe today we're going to work about, towards some beliefs to actually make you feel that way, regardless of what people are saying.
That would be great.
At the end of the day, we're going to always have people saying stuff, and there's nothing wrong or right or bad or good. It's just, an opinion. And I think that's the main thing that we need to focus today, I think.
Yeah. I agree. I love that. Especially because I feel like I've also noticed all of my favorite movies and songs, a lot of people make criticisms of that would like make me so upset if I was the one who made them. But then I know I really love those things. So it's I agree. You got to give them as much weight as they're worth and not more.
Exactly. And I always feel like for me, I don't really believe, art being a competition. Mm-hmm. So I really feel like it's art, Some people would like it, some will not like it, some will resonate to it, some won't. And it doesn't make it right or wrong. It's just, different. And I think that's the beauty about art. It's just like, the fact that it's like color. Everybody has different tastes for colors and music and so on and so forth. And I think that's the beauty about it. So I think, that's something you really want to keep in your mind and really feel like, you know what, it's okay.
So what's tricky about our industry though too, because if you want to find success in the entertainment industry, as much as an artist you want to just make your art in a vacuum, you kind of are required to factor in other people's opinions. I mean, especially like if you want to work on a professional level, it's like, okay, well, you got to get it past producers and executives, and then the audience has to like it, and it's constantly judgment and critique and approval. And so I think it's really important, and I'm saying this as someone that also has not achieved this at all. It's super important to like try to separate those voices from your own voice in terms of these are opinions I have to listen to a degree because they're opportunities and they're doors that are opening for me, but that doesn't mean it has to devalue my own personal opinion on the art that I'm making or what it means to me. And I think it's really hard to keep those two things separate because so much of what you're able to do and so many opportunities you receive are dependent on what these other people think. But that doesn't legitimize or delegitimize the art in your own eyes. And I think it's really difficult to kind of keep that balance and keep that separation.
Yeah, it's a great distinction to make, though. It makes a lot of sense because it is also so many of those requirements or critiques will be coming from such specifically like how much money will it cost to make it, or
exactly,
is that even a feasible thing to do, which
will
is
China
just
like this.
It's like those are important considerations, but you're completely right that then there's no reason that should be something that is weighed then in your head against your ability to create something cool, like
or
it's
the
a different
value
type
the
of
art
issue.
has in your own eyes.
Exactly, that's a good point.
So you can say that today would be more like I mean in your life right now at this point, it's kind of really kind of what kind of have a bit of a weight on you, I would say.
I think so. I mean, I think when I'm doing good, I'm doing the best I've ever done, especially in terms of the work that I create right now. Like I feel like I have moments. It feels like roughly once a month-ish, I'll get like a couple days to a week where it's just like I have so much passion and confidence in my art, and I'm making stuff that like I can now acknowledge that I do like a lot of the stuff that I make. And I think especially because of that, now it is just that thing of then, so why 3/4 of the time do I feel like I have to be down on myself and carrying this weight and this pressure of like, I don't even know what the pressure is for anymore. Yeah, because it used to be I want to make art that I think is cool. And now I make art that I think is pretty cool, and I know I'm getting better inevitably. So it's like, I want to relax a little bit. I guess I want to.
Yeah, seems like you went through a lot of schooling where you had a lot of people saying things that weren't really pleasant to hear. You probably learned from it, but at the same time, it did kind of I would say, did some scars, so to speak.
Yeah.
And I think we're gonna be working today on that. So I'm gonna turn to Christelle actually to kind of after what we talked about and kind of have a bit of a introduction of Dylan's challenges and stories, so to speak, and background. I'd like to kind of turn to you to kind of if you can see that.
Yeah, I mean, I looked over your chart, Dylan, and what you shared, and I can already see so many parallels between what's written in your human design chart and also the experiences and the challenges that you've been describing and that we've been talking about. And first of all, just in terms of human design, you're what's called a generator type with sacral authority. And that basically means that your energy and your clarity comes from responding and leaning into what lights you up in the moment and not trying to force or trying to figure everything out in your head. And so this is why you might feel like you struggle to focus on things that don't actually interest you, right? You can't force yourself. And so it's really interesting when you were sharing your story around, suddenly being put in the gifted program. And also just, I guess, as as you started getting more into the arts, right? Where you're suddenly put in this situation where someone else has creative control over what it is that you do and where
Mm-hmm.
you put your energy. And as a generator type, that can be one of the most restricting things. And that can make it feel like, okay, well, what's wrong with me? Because I have this talent, I have this energy, but where is it all of a sudden? And so that can be a really big source of frustration. And on top of that, you're someone that I see needs a lot of freedom to experiment and make mistakes in your creative process in order to stay in that creative flow. You're someone that thrives on experimentation and trial and error. And so when you're put in these situations where suddenly your work's being criticized, then that can keep you stuck. There's almost, and I feel like maybe this goes back to your past experience in that gifted program where you were kicked out. And so maybe you associate, creating something with that rejection, that same type of rejection. And that might block that creative flow even more because of that fear of criticism.
Mm-hmm.
But aside from that, right, what I see is that you have some really interesting life force channels in your chart that can also explain why you have these high periods of energy, or you feel so high during productive phases, and then suddenly you hit these longer periods of maybe disconnection or boredom, and that's where that self-criticism really comes in, because it's like, well, what's wrong with me, right?
Mm-hmm.
But one channel that I'm referring to, it's called the channel 515. It's all about rhythm, right? And basically what that
Mm-hmm.
means is that you're someone that's not meant to be on all the time. Your energy works in these cycles of extremes and patterns. And when you're aligned with your own internal rhythm, right, you can be incredibly magnetic and incredibly productive and energetic and in the flow. And that's the onside of your cycle. That's when you have those 1 week periods of passion and just being able to pump things out without you really even thinking about it. Your body just does it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but in these natural, I'm going to say like maybe lower side of the cycle, or the it's not even an off really, it's just a different extreme of the cycle where maybe
Mm-hmm.
you're out of, or even sometimes if you're out of sync with your patterns, that can happen when you're trying to push yourself or force
Mm-hmm.
yourself to maybe operate in this linear way or operate in this way that you think you should be operating, right? That's when, or let's say, for example, there's a low shift of energy, or there's just a complete shift of interest, even,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you're still trying to force yourself. That's when the frustration and the self anger can creep in. And interestingly, your rhythm, it's unconscious to you. So it's not something that you can consciously control, but rather something that you learn to notice over time. And as you listen to it, as you honor it, it becomes a lot easier to navigate. And so, one thing that you've already noticed and identified for yourself is that these come in 1 week shifts, right? Like maybe
Mm-hmm.
once a month. And so knowing that about yourself, how can you structure your days, or how can you structure your schedule to honor that 1 week period of, total productivity? And then maybe within those other 3 weeks, instead of trying to control how we use that energy and get into that cycle of feeling defeated in that way, tapping into and noticing what's your energy actually moving into now, right? What does it need right now? Maybe it needs a little bit more space to breathe. Maybe it needs a little bit more inspiration to just like breathe it out. And also
Mm-hmm.
maybe you also just need a little bit more space to gain momentum and to make mistakes and experiment, right? So there's different things you can do to cultivate more of that creative energy more consistently, and also give yourself that space and that compassion to be like, well, there's nothing actually wrong with me, right? You're not broken at all.
Mm-hmm.
Your rhythm's not broken. You're just wired to move in rhythms. In other words, you have your own very specific nonlinear cycles of energy, and not nonlinear cycles of creative energy as well, right? You're not meant
Mm-hmm.
to follow someone else's version of balance or productivity, and you thrive on your own personal rhythm that might look extreme to others, that might look weird to others, but it's exactly what keeps you aligned. That's your flow. You're designed to be in your flow. And the key here is to just, I guess you could say, not force a consistent
Mm-hmm.
output, but to create the conditions that allow your rhythm to flow naturally, right? Create the structures, the systems that you need to flow within that. And what you'll recognize is that through that, you create a consistency or a sense of consistency as a byproduct of, of, you know, having certain structures in place or allowing yourself to breathe, because what you'll notice is the flow always does come back. So it's not that you're not consistent. It's just that you're not consistent in the way you think you should be. Right? So I'm just going to pause there, but
No, that's, I mean, thank you. And that it's genuinely fascinating, because it is, I think there is so much of the pressure that I put on myself, at least, that is like tied into this idea of being like prolific, because so many of the artists I respect, it feels like that's the narrative around them. It's like, oh, they were just every day, they were pumping stuff out and like in it. And then, so I think it's so interesting, because you're right that, yeah, it's just, as hard as I try to be that, it's not what I can be right now. But it also, I haven't tried what you're talking about, which is trying to actually just focus on understanding that is perhaps just my way of approaching being my version of prolific, quote unquote, or whatever. Like,
I mean, like, beyond that, it's even just like people have different artistic processes, and like if this is what works for you, and like, I mean, for my money, like a week of productive art a month is still pretty good. Like, that's not bad. And like, you know, for all of these prolific artists that you love, I'm sure there's plenty that make, you know, like half my favorite directors have made like 3 movies, and it's like
true.
over the span of like 30 years. And it's
a
like,
really good point.
it's like, you know, everybody has a different process. And if this is the kind of thing that works for you, you know, you're still making things at the end of the day. And, you know, it might ebb and flow too, like as we get older or whatever, who knows? But like, I think, yeah, it's hard not to compare your creative process to others and like your output to others. But at the end of the day, you're still making stuff.
Yeah, I want to piggyback on that, because I think it's very important, because a lot of people are kind of comparing themselves to other artists, or, you know, whoever, you know, work in their field. And I think it's like a double-edged, you know, sword, because it can work in a way that, you know, if you get inspired and you can get ideas, that's great. But if it kind of put you down and feel like, oh my God, you know, I'm not doing what they're doing, you know, what does it say about me? And I think that's when, you know, it really can really kind of go down and make you feel really bad. And I think when you feel that way, then you know you're going the wrong direction. So it's very important to kind of feel that. And you know, just like, you know, Crystal said, you know, everyone has a flow. And I think your best work will come when you're actually in the flow and stay in the flow. And if you are out of the flow, in and out, that's all good as well. And I think it's very important to be comfortable not being in the flow as well.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people do judge themselves when they're not, you know, proactive or doing things that they think they should be doing. And I think, you know, it's like a season. There's a season for everything. And, you know, every week maybe you might have a time where you don't feel like being productive. And that's completely okay. There's other things that actually you can do that actually help you to maybe like master your craft, or maybe just have more experience, life experience. As an artist, I think, you know, that's very important to actually experiment life. And, you know, experiences are very, very important to put in your art after. So I think that's maybe another way to look at it. So not to judge yourself so much, not to compare yourself so much to others. Because, you know, just as Jamie was saying, you don't know.
Yeah,
you know, as far as we know, you know, okay, great product, but them also had those, you know, up and down, and I think all of us do, really, truly. You know, we only see like, you know, the highlight.
Yeah.
But, you know, when we see like, oh my God, they weren't like
true.
so high all the time, you know, and I think that's very important to take in and to remember when you feel like, oh my God, I'm not being prolific here. I'm not being, you know, doing what I'm supposed to be doing. No, I think be at peace with yourself. Understand that, you know, there's a flow and there's like a rhythm, and go with it. Don't judge yourself for, you know, not feeling, or anyway being inspired. Maybe that's okay. You know, there's other things in life than, you know, producing, you know, art.
Yeah.
I mean, your life is art itself. You being alive, it's a piece of art in some ways, you know. Just, you know, when you get up in the morning, look at, you know, things around you. That's like, that's creation as well.
Yeah.
In the making, so to speak, you know. So anyway, I just gonna say something about that. But yeah, I felt like, you know, Crystal really kind of nailed it as well. I think, you know, it's important for you to kind of discover your own rhythm. And I think you're doing it already, you know. You already kind of find ways to, okay, I feel better about doing this. That's the thing that happened when you actually been in a very, I would say, structured environment. where you actually had to fit the part, so to speak. Now
Yeah.
you are a little bit on your own, so to speak, and you have to find that for yourself. It's fun now. Now you can be yourself again, so to
Yeah,
speak,
true.
and create your art the way you want to create it. And I'm for me that's the best way to live your life, and also I think it's the best way to create.
Yeah,
you know?
I agree. I think that is the kind of self-fulfilling prophecy or paradox of the whole thing. I definitely find that the second that I start feeling down on myself, my work for sure is worse, at least in my opinion. But I think it's true. Like it for sure is a connected like graph or whatever you call that. Math was not my thing, but it feels like I feel I would be probably a more productive person if I wasn't trying so hard to be productive all the time.
Yes, I think it's the pushing that makes it hard. Trying to kind of do something instead of allowing it to kind of go and be in the flow. And there's different way to get in the flow anyway. So as I was saying, it doesn't have to always be like connected to your career. I think you can start to be in the flow just by doing things aside from work.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are judging themselves from doing that, because they feel like, oh my God, that's not being productive. That's like, oh my God, I'm going direction here. That's like, no. And I'm like, no, take a walk.
Yeah.
Meet people, kind of do different things. And
Especially
again,
because this is art too.
Yeah.
And you get inspiration. You can find drive in anything. And I think it's the kind of thing that, you can probably tap into that flow in all sorts of ways.
Yeah.
In whatever you might find inspiration from or that drive from, for sure.
It's true. You got to go collect experiences to create art at all. It is true. If you could, that is also, I mean, I think in general, that is a good idea too, of trying to find ways to flip the script in my head, so to speak, of like, even if it is that I feel like, I cannot touch music right now for the life of me, then instead of that being that's negative, trying to look at it more like, well, I probably could go like to a party and meet people who would be interesting and might make me have something that I want to write about or something. Like it, finding the ways to look at the positive of what my brain wants to do in the moment feels like.
Yeah, I think a lot of synchronicity happen when you're like that. When you actually kind of allow yourself to kind of go with the flow without trying to push and force things into place. You meet people, but it's just, you create synchronicity. I mean, there's always synchronicity happening anyway, all the time. Sometimes you're aware of it, or sometimes you're not. But I think really kind of allowing yourself to just be, and be okay with that. That would be like the first step. Because you're just being yourself, and know that is enough. That's really kind of what needs to kind of happen for you to really feel like, you know what, I deserve to be here. I deserve to create my art and to be in the flow. Just that alone would make you feel like, you know what, I'm good enough. And that's something that a lot of people have difficulty having, or actually feeling that, or actually kind of believing that, because, oh no, just being myself, I'm not enough. And that's really kind of a little bit of a conundrum. I think people really kind of go down that direction, and they feel really even worse and worse and worse and worse, and they compare themselves and they judge themselves, and then it goes on that direction. So I think really kind of start to actually notice things that excite you on a day-to-day basis, meaning that doesn't have to be related to work, as I was saying. Could be anything, going on a walk, listening to certain music, cooking, maybe petting your pets. I mean, whatever feels like, oh yeah, feels good, go for a walk. So there's a lot of things you can do aside from work that actually can get you back into the flow. But don't do it just to be in the flow. Just kind of follow your excitement. I think following the excitement, it's a formula that actually really helps you to get back in the flow. And then the creation, and then oh my God, I want to write something, and then that's the way it kind of goes. And also you meet people, and then and I'm telling you, I cannot tell you how many times I went in a complete direction compared to my work. So it's completely different, and then that helped me achieve my goals in my career. So it's all connected anyway. We think things are disconnected. No, everything is connected.
You can't
everything.
force the flow. You cannot force the flow.
It all feeds itself. That is interesting.
Yeah,
and
always.
feels true. Yeah.
I just really briefly, just like as another film person, like to put it in terms of like something are you a fan of Todd Field at all?
I probably should be.
Yeah,
But
so
that name doesn't even sound familiar.
Todd Field is a very like acclaimed, successful director. But he's been working for almost 30 years. The guy's made 3 movies, like literally 3 movies. He made Tar,
that was
starring
good.
Kate Blanchett, and then he made this movie Little Children. And he made one other movie. All 3 movies are like ridiculously acclaimed. People love them. They're amazing. But he is totally a dude that just follows his flow, because that's like 30 years almost, and he's made 3 movies, so he's not pushing it. He's waiting until he has, the thing he's drawn to, and then going for it. And obviously that's a hard philosophy to adopt, especially earlier in your career, because it's like you gotta have an output if you're gonna make it. But I think it's more just a testament to, once you're at a point in your career where you have that freedom, that is 100% a valid artistic process to just allow yourself to be driven towards the projects that you want to make, rather than trying to force things out of you that you don't necessarily feel as passionate about, or you're sort of having, self-doubt about. Because like the guy's made 3 movies, but all 3 are bangers, and like all 3 are beloved. And, he took his time with them. He waited until he was driven towards doing this. But as a result, the art he made is fantastic.
That's true.
So, there is something to be said for, if you allow yourself to get naturally driven towards this art that you want to make, and you're not forcing it, I think it also can make for better art as well.
I mean, I definitely agree. I think it was reminding me of, I had a phase towards the end of high school. I got very into the Game of Thrones books.
Oh, yeah.
And George R. R. Martin, the author, very much, in a way that makes all the fans very sad.
Very frustrating.
Has not finished this last book for I think it's over 20 years or something now. But his argument, which I've always, especially in recent years, but really always had a hard time holding against him, is just that he'll sit down and write 4 chapters sometimes, and then spend months just not feeling like it. But the alternative is a worse story. So it is true. I think there's an element of it that's even just, I can like it or not like it about myself, but at the end of the day, I have to at least accept that is perhaps the way to be happy and creative.
Yeah, and I want to say something. If you can think of maybe a moment in your young life where you actually have created something that was kind of, created from that place. I'm sure you have some
from the
from the flow, being I didn't care about, didn't have any kind of structure around. It was just something I wanted to do, and I did it, and the process was amazing, and the result as well, but the process even more so.
I think, in elementary school even, I think that is my purest memories of that, which I guess makes sense. But I had, me and a really close friend of mine, Augie, would it was in the early days of YouTube, and we were we're also going to be famous YouTubers because everybody wants to watch kindergarteners make videos. So we didn't get famous, but it was a lot of the videos I still watch now, and it is just, you can see so clearly that we're both so undistracted by everything except for what would be fun in each moment. And it does bleed through. At least it makes me happy to look back at them and watch them, because it for sure makes a difference in tone, at least for me, knowing that was there, that it was all just we weren't thinking about if it was something that had been done before, or if people were going to think that's interesting or something like that. And I think it even then does open a lot of doors then to decisions that are genuinely might be cooler or more interesting, because you're just not trying so hard to I do think it has become harder for me the more I try and make all of my art, but movies especially, into some kind of formula or equation that I have to fit my ideas into, is obviously stressful and I don't think helpful for me.
What I found really interesting about all this, because funny enough, before I had my own chair, when I was just a guest on this podcast, I had a very similar problem that I was bringing to the table, which was basically I find it hard to find motivation as well a lot of the time with creative projects. But I think that it's kind of interesting to hear what we're saying here about how, because it's easy to say oh yeah, just make it when you feel like you can, but we can't necessarily do that in this industry, because you do have to have an output. But what I find interesting about what Serge is saying is, it's not so much about waiting until you find the flow again, versus what it's really about is helping yourself re-find the flow without forcing the project. And it's not always about like, I'm going to force myself to make something. It's more about, how can I put myself back in the headspace where I feel in the flow so that I want to make this project again? Which is why I thought what you were saying, Serge, about like, instead of sitting down at your computer being like, I'm going to force myself to make a song right now, that doesn't work. It's better to go, I'm going to go on a walk right now. I'm going to go hang out with some friends right now. I'm going to do something that might spark that inspiration to help me find the flow again, rather than to try to force it out of myself. Because that's something that I find very interesting, and I'm taking away from this as well, honestly, is it's not necessarily that you have to wait for that feeling to come back again. You can pursue that feeling, but it's not always just in forcing it out of you artistically. There's plenty of ways you can try to re-find the flow.
I feel like I even sometimes will get re-energized to work on something because I have decided I'm not going to do it at all anymore. And then then the next day I'll have an idea about it and I'm like, oh, okay, I guess that's back. But it definitely supports the theory. It makes a lot of sense.
And Christelle, I think, talking about, basically his human design charts, you can also you can see this, right? Where, it's important for him to really kind of, connect with it. And I mean, it's for everyone, but I think, everyone is very unique and special. And I think, he's a generator, right? So I guess, there's something to say about that. But, also about decision, you know already when it's right for you to do it, right?
Yeah.
You don't have to second guess. That's another thing I want to talk about, because I think, you get stuck sometime in the head, but your nature is to really kind of make decision from a state of, knowing right away. You already feel it, whether it's right or not. I think that's kind of it's the cute. I would say that's the kind of I would say this, it's the compass. And I think that's something that's very important for you to follow, instead of kind of going to your head and try to find reason to do things or not to do things. Just kind of, it right there, and then that it's the right thing for you to do. I think that's right if I don't make a mistake on that one. Right?
Very strong inner compass, and sometimes it's just the distractions that pull you away from that. The shoulds, the what you think other people are doing, or what a typical creator should be, or how they should be living their life. But I just kind of wanted to add this on to what Jamie was saying, that, and I 100% agree, is that it's not about waiting for motivation. It's not waiting for that creativity to hit, but creating those rhythms, those structures, those rituals maybe that you can lean on when, you're no longer productive, right? So I think you guys brought up really great ideas. Going out for a walk, instead of just sitting at your computer or whatever it is, trying to create something, doing things that are going to spark that creativity, spark that flow again. And one thing that I see from your human design is that, like I said, you're here to experiment and trial and error. And so part of that involves going out there and living life and going into new experiences, having new experiences within this time, or going on an adventure, right? You're someone that's here to live life, to experience things. And that's what sparks a lot of the inspiration that you have. And so sometimes, what I find interesting is that you have these, I don't know, more or less 3-week cycles of, quote unquote, non-productivity, but you might not even see it that way. It's more so you're in your rhythm. It's just a different phase. It's the phase where you're there to have different experiences that spark your inspiration or spark that creativity. My invitation to you is just to continue to observe those cycles and trust when you're not in a productive wave. Actually, one thing that's really interesting that I saw on your chart is that one of the big life lessons that you're here to learn is, and develop over time, is holding that faith and that trust that when you don't have that power to concentrate on creating something, right? Productivity, that's going to lead you to doubt, right? That tends to lead you to that self-doubt. And one thing to recognize is that doubt is not fact. It's not real. It's a part of your design. That's what happens. But in that process, that's here to lead you to develop that faith, develop that trust. And, I encourage you to just notice that if you're at a non-productive part of your cycle, you're still in your own rhythm, It's just a different
Yeah.
part. And these lows aren't the problem. It's just part of the process, right?
As you even said, like, doubt is not fact. I felt in my chest the weight easily. Like, it is that is powerful stuff. That's cool. Yeah. Hearing you say it, I know that, like, it resonates with me, or like as a person, that is something I too believe. And it's just about, yeah, clearly I need to, I guess, teach myself to be on that page more readily.
We are kind of in a section of the podcast where I think, I want to kind of talk about belief, and where we can actually work a few beliefs that might probably kind of help you move forward and actually feel more comfortable about those ups and downs and, so to speak, not being productive. Because I think that's very important for you to kind of be at peace with those moments. And then by doing that, I think you're going to really kind of find yourself way faster in the flow and being in the flow more consistently. And from that place, you'll be able to actually be more, proactive and create, your art. So, I came up with a couple of beliefs for you, statements. So we're going to actually kind of look over those. I'm going to actually have you read them. There's 12 of them, and it's right here.
Cool.
And you can read for yourself, and then you can read out loud, maybe the one that feels the most, I would say, congruent to your situation, and that you think, that would resonate with you the most.
So pick one of these, you're saying?
You just look at them, and you can read them out loud, actually, if you want to, and see,
Cool. I love myself unconditionally.
That's one.
I love and accept myself completely. I deserve to be loved. I am safe, secured, and at peace with myself. I am perfect as it is. I deserve to be successful. I am capable to be successful. I have all it takes to be successful. I am a talented artist. I'm a talented writer, director, and musician. I am capable to sustain myself and become financially independent. I am sustaining myself and financially independent. Sometimes.
Well, so those are like basically beliefs that actually came up from basically you telling me about your challenges.
Yeah.
The first few ones are basically the basic. It's about self-love. And I think, it's funny because I work with hundreds of clients that actually think they love themselves. And when we muscle test them, which is kind of a technique we're using to actually kind of see if it's really true, on a subconscious level, the person believes that, it goes weak. Because people don't really truly believe that. They don't have a sense of love for themselves. And I think that's the first, I would say, place to start. Nevertheless, I want you to kind of pick and choose the one that feels like, I like to kind of believe that. And again, belief is just like a software in a computer. If you don't have the software, it's going to be really hard to operate from that place. So it's really kind of an upload that would help you to be a little bit more in the flow. And that's what we're here for today. So you can be thyself.
Awesome. The roll credits. I mean, it's interesting because right off the bat, I even kind of started laughing because it felt like I was feeling uncomfortable for some reason I didn't even expect about saying out loud, like, I love myself unconditionally. But then the second I got down to like the stuff about being a talented artist and stuff felt a lot easier for me, or like I felt like it made me happy to say that. So it almost feels like it makes me wonder if I've gone in a weird order and like I've worked a lot on, because I've thought that I've been spending a lot of time working on trying to love and appreciate myself, and I'm wondering if I have perhaps accidentally started to love and appreciate my art, but not perhaps the person who's making the art at all times.
Good point. I want to say this. The sensation of discomfort when you read the first one, which is I love myself unconditionally, it's a sense, it gives you like an indication that it's not something that's very congruent with your beliefs on a subconscious level. That's the reason why you feel uncomfortable. The other one, a little bit more comfortable, we'll walk through those as well. But I think, for myself, I would pick that one first because I think it's really a great basic to work with and to kind of start. But you can pick any one you want. And today we're going to probably do one or two. But I'd like you to kind of pick the one that feels like, you know what, I really want to believe this.
I think, yeah, I love myself unconditionally. Then I would definitely like to believe that. that would be good.
So this is the one we're going to be working today on, and perhaps another one if we have a bit of time. But I think you did a very good choice. I mean, this is like, I always want to leave, the guests kind of decide for those things because I think it's very, particular. There's a timing for everything. But I think it's a beautiful one. And I think if everyone really had that beliefs, I think the world would be a different place. I'm gonna actually kind of use your arm as to gauge. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna just kind of ask you to hold, and you just hold. You're not gonna be actually doing anything else but holding. Cool. Hold.
Should I be like resisting the push?
Not resisting, we just hold. So you just match.
Okay.
And that's what I'm saying. Just hold. Say my name is Dylan.
My name is Dylan.
Hold. Okay. No, my name is Jack.
My name is Jack.
Hold. Okay, good. That's really good. Okay. So now you're gonna actually think about something you don't like.
Okay.
It could be a food, it could be a person, it could be anything. Okay. When you're happy to tell me. You got it?
Got it.
Hold. Okay. So think about something you really like. Could be a food, a person, anything.
Got it.
Let me know when you have it. You got it? Hold. Okay, good. So now what I want to do, you want to look downstairs, and then I want to actually kind of, say the statement.
I love myself unconditionally.
Hold. Oh, very weak. So relax. So you're going to actually cross your legs like this. Good. And give me your arm again. And just hold. Okay, switch. Yeah, just like that. And then hold. Okay, switch back the other way. Good. And you're going to bring me the other arm. So look down and then hold. Okay, we're gonna hold this one, and you're gonna actually kind of cross. You're gonna close and do like this. There we go. And you're gonna actually kind of move down here. Hold. You're gonna relax your back, and you're gonna just repeat the statement. You can close your eyes, and you can repeat, I love myself unconditionally.
I love myself unconditionally. I love myself unconditionally. I love myself unconditionally. I love myself unconditionally. I love myself unconditionally.
Think about it.
Closer.
Get closer to it. You can still go into it if you feel like, it's take a lot of time. Close your eyes and just kind of repeat it. I love myself unconditionally.
I love myself unconditionally.
Put your hand in this way. You gotta look at your hand and you gotta repeat the statement.
I love myself unconditionally. I love myself unconditionally. I love myself unconditionally.
Perfect. Okay, now you're gonna actually kind of give me your arm right here. We're gonna try the statement, so you're gonna actually kind of say it loud. And then that's what you're gonna say it again.
I love myself unconditionally.
Hold. It's good.
Hi everyone, and thank you so much for watching our episode today. If you feel like you would like to be a guest and wonder how to do it, very simple. Go on our website, BeThyself.us. There's a form over there. Fill up the application, send it to us, and we will respond to you. And I would love to see you here. Thank you so much.
All right. Well, that was like something.
It was cool.
I want you kind of just how do you feel after this? Because I want to get a little bit of your feedback and can explain me like the sensation if you kind of the process. How do you feel?
I think it was really interesting for me in a way I didn't fully expect, because I was going into it interested in just seeing like, I guess the concrete, like what you can learn from it, like if I believe it or not. And I found I got really relaxed in the process of even preparing to do it. And it felt like as I was repeating the statement, I could very clearly then hear like the other part of my brain or whatever try to come in and give me the conditions of which, like, well, except for this thing, which we don't like. So it was challenging in a way I didn't expect, I guess, because I was having to almost feel like work through or like accept and move past quickly like things as they were coming up. But I also think it definitely, it feels more true than it did before. And I think a big part of that might even be that it allowed me to identify why it didn't feel true to me. And in most cases to then be like, that doesn't make sense to me as a reason for that to not feel true to me.
That's great. That's great because you kind of in some way, everyone has different process for those different processes. Sometimes you feel like a release, sometimes you feel like a tingling sensation, sometimes you just cry because there's different emotion that goes through the tears, and the consistency, the chemical consistency of the emotion of the belief is attached to the tears, and so it goes away. There's a lot of things happening, so everyone has different experiences. It's actually the first time I hear someone talking about that experience that way. So it's very nice. Yeah,
my arm also did tingle, I will say. that did also happen. I didn't know at all what to expect, so thank you. It was really cool.
You're very welcome. And then you did great. I think that's one of the most important belief, I think, for everyone to actually kind of believe. I think it's
I agree.
It really helps you in every areas of your life. So I think that's going to really help as well.
At the baseline, I feel like it's just helpful to just hear yourself say that out loud.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
How often do you tell yourself, I love me unconditionally? Like, I don't know. I never say it's definitely there's some beauty in telling that to yourself and just even hearing yourself say it.
I had to get past wanting to like laugh at it like it was a joke. As I was
say you feel kind of almost awkward like saying that out loud, but it should be so normal, but it somehow it feels so strange to like admit that, like, yo, I admit it, I love myself.
Felt like embarrassing. Like, was that not the goal?
Yeah,
what everyone is trying to do. Yeah,
exactly. But
and you feel more comfortable when you're saying the statement. It feels like it's not creating the stress that you felt initially. Correct?
Yes, definitely. Yeah,
that's the sign that something has shifted, and it's very subtle, but those are very profound changes. Because when you actually have a belief. Such as, I love myself unconditionally, being basically uploaded on your subconscious level, it really kind of helps you to see things in a different way. And also yourself, the perception about who you are as a person, as a human being, has changed just by believing that, by actually knowing that it's just, it's right to feel that way and to believe that. There's nothing wrong with that. It's true. This is who I am. So that's great. So, do you want to say something, Crystal, about that belief? I love myself unconditionally. I think, in human design, it's such, a good one to have, I think, too.
One of the biggest premises of the system is to help us cultivate more of that self-love, right? And that starts with knowing ourselves, understanding ourselves, and developing that compassion for ourselves as well, and understanding that we're so different. And, we don't need to change ourselves to be lovable, right? We're all worthy of it. We're all inherently worthy of it. And it's just something that, an act of self-love, it's one thing to say it, but one way that you can really live it and show yourself that act of self-love is just being yourself, right? Honoring those rhythms, not trying to force yourself to be the archetype of what you think a successful writer, artist should be, but create the version of yourself that be the best version of yourself. And that's the ultimate act of self-love that you could manifest for yourself, right? So that's what I would say.
I think from having a statement such as, I love myself unconditionally, no one's going to do something to themselves that's not right, because having that belief really kind of put everything in perspective. I mean, when you love yourself, you're not going to do something that's going to hurt you, so to speak.
True. It's easier to have compassion for yourself.
Absolutely. And compassion is a big word right here. You have to have compassion for yourself. You cannot have compassion for anyone if you don't have compassion and love for yourself first. So I think that's where it's coming from. So I think that's a great statement for you to have. I think you're really going to actually blend through, all, the aspect of your life. And from that place, I truly believe you're going to feel more at peace. Not forcing yourself to do something, but just kind of allowing yourself to be in the flow and, kind of accept who you are and also the rhythm that you're going through. And I think that's kind of, I believe that's really what needs to be done for anyone to actually be in the flow and, not judging yourself anymore.
Yeah.
The way you did perhaps. And it's going to also probably help your chatter, like your mental chatter, because I think a lot of people have like, a lot of, monkey mind
too
going
many
on
voices,
because of that belief not being part of who they are, and I think that's going to really help you as well on that domain as well. So I'm so happy we've done that today. So
me too, thank you. I have a question. I want to turn it back on you guys. Do you all feel like you love yourselves unconditionally?
I do, very much so.
That was a strong answer. That was good.
I truly believe that. That's like for my personal experiences, I've been doing this for almost 25 years now, but beliefs, I I like, as I say, like software in a computer. And actually, when I started to do this work, I did a lot of different testing to see what was true to me. And of course, I love myself unconditionally. It wasn't there, obviously. And I think we unlearn to love ourselves, so to speak. Because babies and kids and children, they really love themselves. They don't allow anyone to kind of change that. But I think through conditioning, we actually kind of lose touch with that. And it's basically our birthright. It's who we are. Loving ourselves. And loving others as well. Love, it's a big word, and people are kind of throwing that at each other's, and it's unconditional love, meaning that we deserve love, unconditional love, and I think that's it's a basic of all. I think it's such an important one to have, and then for myself, definitely I can talk, personally, it's a very important one, that really kind of changed my life. Among other ones, but I think starting with that one, I think it's the big one.
Yeah,
absolutely. And I love myself unconditionally. I mean, there's always part of yourself that you're gonna prefer and so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, it's important to love yourself unconditionally and know that you do the best you can. We're always doing the best we can. Some people are like, no, that's not true. You could do better. And if you're not aware of the fact that you can do better, then you're not able to be better, so to speak, or to do better. So accept yourself for who you are. Here and now, and you will evolve. We're gonna always have challenges, and we always evolve and grow and better ourselves, so to speak. But at the same time, we're always the best version of ourselves. As long as we're aware of that fact and kind of follow the flow, and I think that's the best way to go about living your life.
That's a great point. Yeah.
How about you, Crystal? Do you love yourself unconditionally?
I do. I mean, it's something that wasn't always that way. And I feel like, especially getting into human design, it's allowed me to see myself more and not be overshadowed by, or I guess, one thing that I used to struggle a lot with was trying to navigate everyone else's expectations of me. And I cared a lot about what other people thought about me. And, if someone didn't respond in a good way, it's like I take that personally. But one thing that has really helped a lot, just in terms of like human design and just doing my own shadow work, really digging in deep to understanding, what are my shadows, and also seeing that everyone is human. Everyone has their shadows too. And so, not just that, but I guess one thing that I've noticed more and more, like throughout this journey, again, it's been a process. It's not just like one day I woke up and suddenly felt like I love myself, but I noticed it through the way that I was perceiving other people and how I perceived myself. So let's say, for example, when I have, let's say, a conflict, or maybe not even a conflict, but I notice that someone is maybe not so friendly with me. My past self would have been like, well, what's wrong with me, right? Why do they not like me? Now I understand that it's not about me at all, right? Like it says more about them and their internal world than it does about me. And that's something that I've noticed a lot. And I feel like not to like toot my own horn, but I feel like the only people that I rub the wrong way are people that have a lot of internal stuff going on, right? I feel like I'm someone that has a very positive energy. And so if someone doesn't resonate with my energy, it's because they're not there yet, right? There's something that they're missing. And, for me, it's almost like I've ingrained it in my head that that's their loss if they judge me for whatever reason and don't want to get to know me because I'm an awesome person. And I think I think I'm fun to be around. So yeah, I feel like that's one way that I've started to notice that, yes, I do actually love myself unconditionally. And again, it's not something that I woke up with. It's something that came gradually over time. But I feel like now I can say that because I see that I'm not affected by other people's perceptions of me in that way. And I think one thing that helped me with that is even just showing up online, right? And having that public presence, that allowed me to build a lot of resilience and see the projections that other people have. So I feel like I've just gotten used to it and I've built that resilience over time, and that's helped a lot with my self-love journey.
That makes a lot of sense. What about you, Jamie?
Do I love myself unconditionally?
Yeah.
Nah.
We didn't work on it yet.
Yeah, we haven't.
It's a next step.
I think
Fellow young artist.
I think I like myself unconditionally. I definitely like myself, but I love myself with some conditions at this point. But hey, man, you know, I'm 23. I got time.
Yeah.
You got
Serge,
time.
Serge will help me with this one.
Yes,
We'll
absolutely. I
we'll
think,
get some statements locked in here. But yeah, no, I like myself.
That's a good start.
I like myself. Love. I don't know if I'm ready to use love yet. We're not there. We're not quite there yet. But give me some time, and maybe I'll love myself a little more. But
You're on the way. You're on the way,
Yeah.
brother.
Jamie, it takes time. I mean, I'm 35, so it took
Yeah.
a long time to get there.
Sure.
The thing that I really liked about your comment, Crystal, is the fact that, you know, your perception about your reaction, or I would say, like, you know, you're not being reactive anymore. You basically are taking it as being, okay, that's the way they feel, that's okay. That's a sign that, you know, you're at peace with it. You know, I always feel like people are like judging or like, you know, criticizing, or they're actually judging themselves. They don't like themselves. They don't love themselves. So there's something in you that they recognize in themselves that they don't accept. Therefore, you know, they project that. So that's the reason why I always have a lot of compassion for people actually that have, let's say, those kind of attitude, because for me, I feel like, wow, it must be so uncomfortable for them to feel the way they feel. And they must have something inside themselves that, you know, they don't appreciate, they don't love, they don't recognize as being okay to have or to be. And therefore, they kind of see that in you and they project that. Some people, a lot of people judge people that are happy to be happy. They feel like, oh my God, he's so happy. And I'm like, and they're mad at you because you're happy. Or maybe they feel that. But I truly believe that's because they're judging themselves. They feel like this life is not to be about to be happy. There's too many reasons in life to be unhappy. So why being happy? That's being selfish or something. And a lot of people have those beliefs. And I think it goes for everything. You know, when you start to judge people and you actually kind of point out things, you know, it's because you're judging yourself. I think once, you know, you really love yourself unconditionally, I think one of the beautiful gifts of loving yourself unconditionally is, first of all, you can actually be loving yourself. You're going to be more in the flow. It kind of allows you to be kind of accepting yourself. And also that's how you can actually kind of be, I would say, the best model you can be for anyone else. You can actually kind of be able to teach through example, through your energy, not through action only, but also the energy that you're actually displaying. That, you know, feeling of being happy and loving yourself. People they're gonna gravitate around you, and also they're gonna learn from that. They're gonna say, oh, I want to feel that way. You
Projecting
know?
good stuff.
Exactly,
Yeah,
and
makes
that's gonna
sense.
actually kind of, you know, be like more of a positive things for the world as well at large. That's the reason why I think it always starts with yourself. You know, be the change you want to be, seeing in the world, be the change, just like, you know, Gandhi said. And I think that's really such a profound, you know, statement. You know, everything starts in within. And so without. So I think it's very important to do that. So loving yourself unconditionally, I think, is the first step. And today we did it. And I'm very proud of you, Dylan, because you did it. And not too many people can do it right away. We had a couple of guests that actually couldn't do that. And it was definitely something that was, you know, something challenging for them. But it was not, you know, the time yet. So it's okay. There's a rhythm for everything. So there's nothing, you know, that we have to push there. But, you know, I'm really happy we did this today.
Me too.
You know,
Yeah.
proud of you for having kind of, you know, being vulnerable and talking about that. And it's a strength that you have. You know, I can recognize that.
Thank you.
And by the way, I see a lot of talents in you. You know, I do have that capacity, and that, I would say talent, I would call it, to recognize talents in people. And I do recognize talent in you.
That genuinely means a lot. Thank you.
You're very welcome. So today, I think, you know, it's a wrap. I think, you know, I'm so happy that we've done this with Dylan today, and that, you know, we've been all together. And it's the first podcast we're having, you know, Jamie as an host, and I'm really, really happy about that. It's really kind of, you know, I mean, I think, you know, it really adds up to the podcast.
Some lack of expertise to balance out the two experts.
I would not gonna say I disagree with this, but I think, you know, your point of view and your vision of things and is actually definitely something valuable, because you know, I think you're gonna be able to come up with, I would say, ideas and questions that maybe the viewer would have, and I think that's the idea here anyway as well. So
That's the goal.
Absolutely. So Crystal, you want to say a last departing word?
I don't know. I feel like I've said a lot, but I think the only thing I want to leave Dylan with is to just continue listening to your gut, listen to your body and where it wants to move in the moment. That's your spark. That's your gift. And I feel like you'll be amazed, and treat it like an experiment, right? It doesn't have to be like you commit to having to have blind faith or anything like that. It's all about experimenting with what works. And I feel like you'll be amazed at how much energy actually does come up, and how much more often that creative wave, that creative flow will come up when you're not pushing, and instead you're just responding to where the energy is moving. So yeah, I hope that's helpful for you, Dylan.
I think it will be. Thank you all so much. I think has been a lot of fun. I think will be really helpful for me. Thank you.
Jamie, last word for you.
I don't know, man. We're in the same boat here.
Yeah.
like I'm right alongside you, brother. I'm striving for the same things. Everything you got out of this, I got pretty much the same. I mean,
yeah.
We're in very similar fields at the same age, so this was all very helpful to me too. But yeah, brother, we just gotta keep on keeping on, keep
we'll
trying.
Make it, or we'll have fun trying to make it.
Yeah, find that flow. Just striving for that flow. But yeah, no, this was a blast. Super good time.
Dylan, anything you want to say before we end the podcast?
I kind of jumped the shark on it. I was just gonna say thank you all so much. I think that this has been really, really good for me. I can even feel in that can sometimes struggle with like social awkwardness, and felt myself becoming more comfortable instead of less as the podcast went on. So I feel like that alone is a testament to that. I think
especially when you got 5 cameras on you too.
Yeah. Don't remind me of the cameras.
I do definitely feel that. So I really sense, I see it physically as well. So I'm really happy that today, we had this going on, and that, you got so much from it. And I'm really blessed that, you've been here today and, kind of be part of the podcast. So thank you very much, Dylan. Thank you very much, Crystal. Thank you very much, Jamie. Much love to you guys. And for all of you, I would just, thank you very much for being part of this podcast. And, I just invite you to be thyself. And until the next time, I wish you love and peace and happiness. Hi guys, we have a big favor to ask you. The best way you can help us right now is to actually subscribe and to like this video. That would actually help us really grow this channel, and also allow us to actually invite bigger guests that'll be able to help our guests and you as well in the process. Please subscribe and like this video. That would be the best way to help us.